Society's overly sexualized and I fucking hate it, bro. I used to be the guy that was the thirstiest dog ever, bro. I was humping and jumping on any girl that was ready to spread her legs and had a nice pair of big melons, man. And it completely ruined my life, man. So if you're the kind of guy who's driven by his primal urges and can't stop chasing women and is self-sabotaging his relationships because, yeah, of lust and those sexual urges, then bro, this video is for you. So up till the age of 20, bro, I wasn't really good with women, you know. I was actually like the kind of opposite. I was this typical nice guy, friend zoned and like socially awkward, socially insecure kind of guy, you know, because I was raised by my grandma, you know, without like a masculine role model and being severely like suppressed, you know. My grandma did not allow me to be my real authentic self because she wanted me to be like the good boy, different than all the other guys, so not be aggressive, don't stand out, don't take any risks, etc., etc. So it like I was severely like inauthentic. I was scared of being myself. I was scared of discomfort, scared of social interactions, even until the age of 20, because that's when I became a bartender to actually overcome this social weirdness. And unfortunately, obviously lacked any sort of self control at that time. And I went from this severely like nice guy Kevin to this hyper macho Andrew kind of character. And my 20s was the era, the decade of fuckboy. I was the crazy playboy who was just sleeping around every weekend. That was even before the apps existed, by the way, you know, so it was a bit more difficult to get like an abundance of women, so you had to do more approaches and stuff like that. Man, I was so in so much pain deep down, you know, because of all the shit that happened in my childhood. And instead of facing it, I escaped it with like getting blackout drunk every weekend, fucking around every weekend. And I was in relationships, by the way. I had two long-term relationships in my 20s of four, like lasted 4 years roughly each. And I still slept with hundreds and hundreds of girls, bro, because I cheated on like all my girlfriends, because I was avoidantly attached, I was anxiously attached, I was a fucking mess, bro. And my entire like 20s was just an era of self-destruction, of getting blackout drunk. And when I worked in finance, I added Coca-Cola to the mix, you know, and I was just indulging in fast food, fast sex, fast and cheap dopamine, and anything just to escape my fucking pain, bro. Because deep down, I was in so much pain. I had this deep void that I tried to fill with like fast money as well, bro. I wasn't like a loser, you know, in terms of money. I was making six figures. I was working in finance. I was working at a startup, but all that money did not make a difference or made a difference to my life in that moment, or at least to fucking fill my fucking inner void, because I was still in this path of oscillating life cycles of ups and downs, but always in the same sort of narrow channel of self-destruction. And throughout my 20s, so like the mid 20s, I started to become really fed up with that, because I started to realize, bro, like I'm going through dysfunctional relationship after dysfunctional relationship, short-term flings, and every weekend I wake up, I feel lonely, I feel sad, no food, no emotional binge eating can make me feel better. I'm chubby. I look shit. I feel shit. No woman can make me feel fulfilled. And that's when I started to realize that I'm like actually chasing happiness externally rather than internally. You know, and I had this is what my gut was saying to me. You know, it was my instinct that sort of was driving me towards like studying myself and sort of self-therapy, because I was so fucking fed up with it. And I came across like an amazing quote by Carl Jung, which I'm going to read out to you right now, because I don't want to butcher the quote. And this quote changed my life. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That quote completely transformed me the moment I came across it, because it explained my entire behavior throughout my 20s. I realized that I was purely driven by primal desires. I was masturbating, I was beating my meat to like pixels, to girls on the screen, while my girlfriend was in the other room. And I'm going to share with you now how I overcame my lust, and I'm going to share that in 3 specific steps, which are awareness and belief. Step number 2 is commit and urgency. And then step number 3 is iteration. And all of that will help you become that Hercules, that best possible version of yourself that will attract higher quality types of women in your life, higher quality relationships, and just will add more purpose to your life, bro. So step number one is developing awareness and a sense of belief that you can change. So what do I mean by awareness? You need to look at your life and do an audit. You need to do an audit of your current life and your dream life and create a gap analysis so you understand what you need to do to bridge the gap from current life to dream life. And when it comes to the gap or the reason why there is a gap, most of the main reason why there is a gap is because you're controlled by your unconscious. You're controlled by lust, your lust for money, your lust for greed, your lust for women and sex and pleasure. So you need to make the unconscious conscious. So you need to look at patterns, and so you need to identify patterns that have been going on in your life. So you can ask yourself questions like, what are the types of women that I attract? What are the types of habits that I have developed? What are the types of habits that I engage in every single day? What are the type of actions I do every single day? What do I do when I feel uncomfortable? What does usually happen when I start being successful? What are my actions that I do on the weekend? What are the things that I say I do versus what is reality? How often do I fail to deliver the promise that I make to myself? That audit will be a slap to your face, bro, because you will realize you are not as great as you think you are. But because you are a peak performer, because you're a high achiever, because you want to become the best possible version of yourself, it will ignite a fire in you to actually overcome lust, to overcome that limiting belief and all the limiting habits that are holding you back right now, so that you can actually bridge the gap and create that dream life of yours and create the dream relationships and attract the dream relationships, of yours. The second step is you have to create urgency, and you have to be willing to commit to the cause that you're developing. Now, I see change as a marathon, not a sprint. And change is the most frightening and scary thing, especially for men, because it involves facing your inner demons, it involves facing your emotions and trauma from the past. And a lot of men are running away from that, escaping from it, because we've always been conditioned to think that emotions are bad, especially in your 30s, when you've been sort of conditioned to live a specific way for 30 years. The neurological pathways are quite strong, so breaking that muscle, for instance, or those pathways and rewiring them just requires a little bit more effort. But I can tell you, bro, it is fucking worth it. And it's also in your late 20s, you will face the same sort of challenge, right? It's gonna be difficult, bro, but if you establish a strong enough why, you will overcome it no matter what. So you start being actually enthusiastic about peeling back the layers and layers and layers of trauma, of demons, of self-sabotage, And I think Mark Manson called it, it's like the truth onion, The deeper you go, the deeper you cut into the onion, the more layers you peel back, the more you cry. And man, that's absolutely okay. That's totally okay. I'm going to share with you the exercises that I did to commit to this, and the specific steps that I did in just a second, by the way. You got to ask yourself, okay, what is my why? Why do I want to change? And for me, my strong why was because I was fed up with feeling empty inside, despite the money, despite the abundance of women that I had. And I realized, bro, my biggest why was I want to break the generational masculinity trauma. That's the purpose of my movement, right? And I want to help men attract better relationships. I want to help men become better fathers, because all those things I never had in my life. And it was an excruciating, painful experience that I don't wish anyone to experience. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. That's why I'm creating this movement of Herculeses, the best possible modern version of yourself, the best possible modern gentleman, And that was my why. And I realized I can't do any of this. I can't have an attractive girl by my side that is my dream woman, my dream relationship. I can't help other men if I can't help myself, bro. And that started to be my biggest driver of healing myself. Now, for you, it might be something different, but you got to fucking figure this out, and you will figure this out, man. So you can ask yourself, okay, what's at stake here? Your why might be oh, I want to become a better father. Your why might be, I want to become a better partner. Yeah, once you've established your why, you will realize that you will not run on motivation to make it happen, but you will run on discipline, because your why will help you create like sustainable habits, so that you can rely on that and you can fall back to a system and discipline rather than motivation. Because there will be days where you do not want to face your demons, where you want to run away from it because it's fucking tough, bro. Your subconscious, your shadow, I call them, and your ego, so I call them the Achilles, the Hades, they will try to pull you back down, bro. But it's normal. A change is painful, but trust me, it is less painful than the pain of regret of missing out on your fucking full potential, man. And yeah, man, once you figured out your why, you move on to iterate. And iteration was fucking painful and fun at the same time, ironically. So what were the things that I did? So I did an audit of my childhood. That was number one. So what did I do? I wrote down my entire life story, bro. I wrote 30 pages on my Word document on my MacBook. So I would recommend that, actually, unless you don't want to have, like, if you don't want to have a sore hand, as weird as that sounds. And yeah, man, so how do you write down your entire childhood, or like your entire life story? So it's almost like as if you were writing a book, your own biography, and you start from your first childhood memory up till today, and you talk about, or you write out everything that you remember, everything you remember feeling, and everything you remember interpreting in that moment. Yeah, so you connect truly to your, like, almost like your inner child, your young boy version of yourself. Let's say you were bullied. I was bullied at high school. There was a moment where one girl like looked at me and she said, "You're fucking ugly." I'm like, okay, that was deeply painful. The reason why I know it was deeply painful is because I still remember it. Memories are one, like, you only remember things that had an emotional impact on you. And remembering that sentence must have been painful for me, because otherwise I wouldn't remember it now, right? So I look back at moments in my life where, I don't know, I gave my mom like a little like drawing, and I found it in her car, which was completely full of dirt, footsteps on it, and I made an interpretation of that, subconsciously or consciously, I don't know. But it meant like, oh, my mom doesn't love me. That's the interpretation I made from that drawing, or like the state the drawing was in, The interpretation of the girl telling me I'm ugly was, I am unworthy and I'm ugly and no one should look at me, and no one, like, I'm just, it's not safe to be me, essentially. Those were the stories that I like attached to whatever happened in the past. And my life, or your life, will be full of those stories, because we are operating under certain paradigms. It's like you are like you're like a MacBook. Your body is the hardware, and your mind is the software, and the software is running on a specific code. Now, during your childhood and throughout your entire life, you've been conditioned to live and operate by specific codes, and each code will determine how you act and respond to certain situations. The exercise I gave you right now to look back at your childhood will fundamentally like change how you recode or rewrite the code in your head. So that was an exercise number one. So exercise number two that I did was I stopped running away from my emotions, and I sat with them, literally on the couch, no music, nothing, for 10-15 minutes, bro. If you've never done it, I'll give you 5 minutes before you crack up and cry. And I just let the tears run. I was sobbing. I was like weeping, I think is the term to use. And I did not run away from it. I just faced the fucking demons inside of me. And then on top, I did something called the water fast, or like a fast, prolonged fasts. I did 72-hour water fasts, where I drank water, but I didn't eat anything, and I also didn't engage in any digital stimulation. So it was just me sitting in my fucking room, in the living room, on the wooden floor, and going absolutely batshit crazy, bro. But in that moment, I spiritually cleansed myself. I connected to my soul, and maybe it's a bit too deep for you right now. Maybe you're like a bit scared of hearing this, and maybe you think like I'm like this weird guy, this hippie guy. I'm not, bro. I used to work in finance. I'm still like driven by success, but that doesn't mean that I should neglect certain or ignore or reject certain ideas from like Eastern medicine, for instance, only because I'm from the West, bro. It would actually be stupid to ignore something that actually works. So this water fast was a spiritual cleanse for me, that we had like an outer body experience, as crazy as this sounds, because I remember that at around the 48-hour mark, I was sitting there on the floor, like going crazy like this, and I saw myself after like 72 hours, bro. Like I felt so light. I felt so much inner peace, that I realized like most of the stuff that most of the happiness that I was looking for in food, in sex, in like Netflix, binge watch, marathons, was actually already inside of me. So I didn't have to pursue it. And ironically, bro, like I went also for like a period of, I think, was it 12 months of celibacy, so no sex. And ironically, bro, like I started to ask myself deep questions such as is the story that I am living into when it comes to women? Why are big boobs so important to me? Why is a fit body so important to me? Why is XYZ so important to me about a woman? And I started to realize that most of the women that I lusted over were like actually not that interesting the moment I removed the attachment to some physical features. And then I went on dates, and every time I caught myself being a bit too much focused or obsessed with her physical features, I just asked myself, okay, why am I actually interested in that specific feature? Would I date her without that physical feature? And bro, 90% of the women were so unattractive to me because I suddenly saw through the mask and the persona they were wearing. I saw through the makeup, I saw through the like lip fillers, and like on a superficial level, those girls were hot, bro. They were like the eights, the nines. I'm not saying that I dated tens, but like the eights and nines, bro. Man, I realized on a physical level, yes, they are an 8 and 9, but on a soul level, on a character level, they're like 1 or 2 maybe. And that like that when that penny dropped, that penny was worth a pound, you know, like it was 100 pennies that dropped in that moment. I realized like, bro, like most of the girls that I was obsessing over was like, it was just stupid. And it allowed me to stop accepting low quality women in my life. And I actually started to focus more on values, character, drive for life, ambition, feminine energy that I was looking for. And like I suddenly attracted higher quality types of women, not only like not by looks, but like character, you know. And yes, maybe it was more like a 7 and 8 that I was dating. Her character made her like a 10 out of 10, bro. And that's how I ended up with Sandra, you know. Like I had like few options, and I chose to stay with Sandra because she was the perfect fit in that regard, you know. Yeah, man, I've been with Sandra for like several years, and yes, there have been like my avoidant attachment has come up again. My anxious attachment, not so much at all. I've actually completely cleansed myself of it. I can approach any woman now because I have the authentic confidence now. But in the relationship, there's still some issues that are coming up. But we don't argue, we don't yell at each other, we respectfully disagree with each other. I don't know where the whiteboard is, but we even have like a whiteboard where we wrote down the standards of our relationship. Like overcoming lust, bro, has completely revolutionized and transformed my life, my inner peace, and also the quality of my relationships, where I'm with a woman that supports my mission, that supports me fully, that is my ride or die woman, and just wants us succeed. Instead of her against me, it is us against the fucking world, bro. And it is just a fucking beautiful thing. And love is part of your purpose, man. So don't become this guy who's just focused on making money, because what good does money do if you cannot share it with the right woman? And if you want my help to attract the right kind of woman, your dream partner, then why don't you book a call with me and I'll help you attract that perfect woman for you. Love and peace. Ciao, ciao.